Hello, everybody. It's Tom Russo again, and this is In a Blink of an Eye. Life is precious. I think we would all agree, but often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. So, this is where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcame through faith, courage, and determination. So, join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn to not only survive, but thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by tradingcardsmarketplace.com. Discover, connect, collect. That's tradingcardsmarketplace.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored today to have Melissa McCracken with us right here in Texas, out in the Spring, Texas area, not too far from me in College Station. And Melissa has quite an unbelievable faith journey that I can't wait to get talking about. But as I always do, I want to pass it to my guest. First, welcome, Melissa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to pass it to you and have you kind of tell us a little bit about where you grew up, uh, how you got where you're at, and so forth. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I'm originally from Hilliard, Ohio. I met my husband very young. He, as I told you, he dated my sister for a little while because he's 4 years older. And then we got married. My children were, one of them was a year old, one of them was a month old when we moved to Texas. They are now 30 and 29, and we've been married for 34 years.
That is such a blessing.
I
That's
know, it
so
has
cool.
been a huge blessing.
I love hearing that. That's great.
Thank you. I'm a realtor in the area, have been for about 12 years. Um,
Outstanding.
yeah, and
And before we go, you're going to give us a way that people can get in touch with you if they need help with realty.
thank you. That would be great.
Absolutely. So continue. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No problem. I'm a twin. My twin is actually 5'7.5" and a blonde. And I'm 5'2". I keep telling her she needed to give me a little bit of the height there. And we have an older sister as well, as I mentioned before.
Okay. Well, outstanding. So I know I don't even know where to start because you've given me some great information on some tragic things that have happened in your life. And you have remained steadfast in your faith, and we're going to explore that. I want to start first with something that happened almost 30 years ago to one of your children when they were very young. Tell me a little bit about that.
My oldest, Jonathan, was born with Chiari malformation. By the time they diagnosed it, it was type 3. A lot of kids in type 3 don't make it at all. And he was uh, transitioning from type 3 to type 4 by the time they found it. Basically, it's the skull doesn't finish forming at birth, and the brain stem drops down below where it should be. And because there's still a little bit of a hole in the skull itself, it crushes the brainstem and stops him from breathing. And so when he's sleeping in particular, you lay back on that particular part of your brain, and it would stop him from breathing. So when they diagnosed him, they told us to learn CPR immediately because they were afraid we would have to put it into action with him before we could get
This
surgery.
was when he was an infant. I mean, this was when he was a
Yeah,
baby.
a baby, yes. We knew about it immediately because, especially at the toddler years, he would stop and grab the back of his head and just scream, and we couldn't figure out what it was. We took him to the doctor, but of course, being the first baby, they kept telling us, "Oh, mom, it's just your first baby. You know, you need to calm yourself down." And so kindergarten, he wanted to go to kindergarten. And so we sent him to kindergarten, and that was our first, what I call miracle blessing, because the teacher was a believer. And she was talking to us, and she said, there's something going on with him. The school wants you to find out what it is before they'll let you bring him back. And so we took him to a neurologist and um, prayed about it in particular, and the neurologist we were sent to was the only one that knew about Chiari at that time. And he said, I know exactly what it is. We got him in for surgery right away. But at 6 years old, saying brain surgery just didn't go well.
I can't even imagine. So let's explore that for a second because
Hmm.
go back to that time if you can when you first found out.
Hmm.
As a mother or as a father even, I can't even imagine where you go to with that. I mean, it would be easy to blame God and to ask why and why a innocent child. How did you deal with that and what did you go through with that?
Well, I've always been the kind of person that, with my faith, I believe that God is more like a friend, like you and I talking right now, more like a friend. And whenever I speak to God, I speak to Him in plain language, just like I'm talking to you. And I remember very clearly going to Him and going, God, why is this happening to my child? We miscarried our first child. And so having Jonathan was a huge blessing. And I kept saying, God, you couldn't have given me. I'm sorry, I get very emotional, but I said, you couldn't have
You don't have
given
to
me.
apologize at all.
Thank you. I said, you couldn't have given me this child just to take him away from me. And I remember calling my mom, and she's my strength. She's always been, girls, you have to have faith. God's there, God's listening, God knows what's going on before you even tell him
Amen.
what's going on. And so there were several times when I just would stop and go, God, because he already knew what I needed. He already knew what I was going to ask. And so I just had this feeling the whole time through, like, he's already got it. He's already handled it. Even though I didn't know how it was going to happen, I knew it was going to come through, that God was going to come through, because there was no other way that I could see it happening. And my faith had to keep me going with that.
A-
Um,
and I know as he grew up, there were still scares and still problems, but you kept your faith all through that as well. I mean,
yes,
I find that an incredible strength and what a
thank
courageous
you.
woman and courageous on his part as well. I mean,
Hmm.
um, he's obviously doing well and
He
has
is.
made it through adolescence and is a young adult now. And
Yes,
so you have
yes,
to be so proud for that.
I
But
am.
but tell me a few of the struggles. I know you were mentioning a little bit about, you homeschooled both of your children, and that
Yes.
really turned out to be a super blessing because, high school when he was at high school, he wanted to go to high school.
He did.
Share with us that story a little bit.
We Jonathan, one of the things that they did to correct his Chiari was they had to put in a false bone to keep his neck in alignment so that it wouldn't swivel, for lack of a better word. He can't do things like get on roller coasters, things like that, because if that bone breaks, it will instantly kill him. And so we we protected him all through his life. He's had 2 surgeries now for decompression on the Chiari. And as I was homeschooling him, as we got to high school, he said, Mom, I really want friends. I really want to be in school just like any kid. But he knew he couldn't do the sports, things like that, but he still just wanted the friends at school. And so we talked to the school and we said, hey, he really wants to come to school. And they said, we can't protect him. There's 300 and some odd kids that are in the hallway at any given time. We can't protect him. And I went home and I prayed about it. And I said, well, God, I know I can protect him. And so we kept him home, and homeschooled him from here.
How
Um,
did he handle that? And how did he handle that with his faith? Because I can only imagine as an adolescent wanting to have the friends and the high school experience, if you will,
yeah,
that had to be a tough time for him.
it was huge. Just like I said, my mom taught me how to go to God and speak just one on one with him. I taught my kids the same thing. Um,
Good for you.
Thank you. And Jonathan's faith grew exponentially just through what he went through, because he realized in his own way he was a miracle child. And so he and the youth group at church, he was allowed to go to the youth group. He could do the activities with the youth as long as it was something within his frame of things that he could do. Um, and they would ask him many times to pray, because the strength in his prayers were so natural that some of the other kids were saying, "How do you pray to God that way? And how are you not afraid that He's not going to strike you with lightning or something for talking to Him that way?" Um, but it helped him so much because he could tell them, "God's my friend." It wasn't. He said, "God's not somebody sitting on a throne just looking down at us, getting ready to condemn us for anything we do."
He's
And so he
everywhere.
helped.
He's
Yeah,
everywhere.
everywhere. And
That's
so he helped
beautiful.
a lot of the other kids progress that way.
Tell me how and I'm intrigued with this because I'm an only child. So
Hmm.
how did uh, his sibling take the medical attention and the attention that it took to help raise him? It obviously took away some time from your other child. That's
It
just a
did.
natural. But how did that progress? How did their relationship progress?
Um, they are the closest brothers you would
That's
ever think.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that.
Both of them very strong in their faith as they were growing up as well. Um, Peter's my youngest. He understood that we needed time with Jonathan. But on those times, like when Jonathan was having surgery, my husband's family lives close. And so we would send Peter for in-state vacation with grandma and grandpa as we were taking care of Jonathan. And so we tried to not make it seem like we had special attention on one and not the other, because I was very aware that Peter would feel like he was left out. And so we were going.
Absolutely, and that's
Yeah.
just a natural reaction, and
Yes.
but it's very keen of you and very, I must commend you on that because
Thank
that
you.
had to have been a challenging situation, and I'm sure you prayed and knew that God was with you on your decisions with that as well, and
Yes.
that's a wonderful thing, and this in and of itself could have been a whole episode of In a Blink of an Eye, but unfortunately, you've had some other things happen in your life that has also challenged. Now, you mentioned your wonderful husband of 34 years and that you've been almost lifelong friends and knowing each other. But I guess you told me, I guess in 2019, he had a stroke. And
He
then
did.
shortly thereafter, he had another stroke. And this has caused a chain of events that has been very challenging as well. Tell us a little bit about
Yes.
that.
2019, Christmas Eve, he started not feeling well. We didn't think anything of it because we went to church, just like we would normally do on Christmas Eve. Christmas morning, he got up, he wasn't feeling well. We have a big thing where the family comes to our house. We have like 20, 30 people. So I was trying to get Christmas dinner together, and one of his coworkers called me that I had never met. And he said, "Your husband's collapsed in the garage." He had walked outside to talk to this person on the phone, and God gave him the presence of mind to tell the guy, "This is my wife's cell phone number, call her." He called me, and I did find him in the garage. He was awake, but not coherent. And he had passed out next to the car in the garage, and we took him to the hospital, and they said he had had a major stroke. Um, so then at that point, the left side of his body, if you cut him in half, the whole left side started to have a deficit. Um, a month and a half later, he had a second stroke. Um, it was just as bad as the first one, so it was progressing on from there as well. The detriment to the left side started to get worse. We started to notice other things were going on with them, and about 5 years ago, well, yeah, about 5 years ago, they diagnosed him with Alzheimer's and dementia. Um, he's had multiple TIAs, which are mini strokes. He remembers 30 years ago better than he remembers yesterday. Sometimes if he's having a really bad day, he won't remember who I am. His dad passed away, and his uncle, and sometimes he sees them and talks to them. Um, but he doesn't understand exactly what's going on because he thinks they're there. And then about a month ago, they diagnosed him with Lewy body dementia, which is a combination of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And since then, his, for lack of a better word, ailments seem to have progressed to quite significant. He can't drive anymore, he can't work anymore, all of
So
that.
needless to say, the prognosis is probably just getting worse, not better.
Yes,
And that has
very
to be a challenge for you on an everyday basis, just because you're basically his caretaker now.
I am.
Is that correct?
Yes, that
And
is correct.
and and bless you for that, because
Thank
that's
you.
a special calling in and of itself, and I know in his mind he appreciates it as well, and I'm gonna speak that for him if he can't speak that to you, because
Thank
I
you.
know that's a wonderful thing that you do. But I wanna explore the faith aspect of that, because here's your life partner, your best friend, your rock to you being his rock, and the father to your children, and here he is, and you're having to take care of, like, almost like a child again, right?
Yes.
An
Yes.
infant almost,
Mhm.
so how does that affect your everyday faith? Because I've got to believe and everybody has good days and bad days. I
Mhm.
understand that. We all
Right.
do.
Right.
But it seems like it would be so easy to go down this drain of why me, why us, why him, why, and blaming God for this, blaming God for that. How do you overcome that on a day-to-day basis? And I know you've said you've talked to God like a friend,
Mhm.
but when you talk to friends and you have all these bad things happen, it spirals sometimes.
Yes. Yes. I can't say that it's always upbeat. Are not I can tell you that I'm prayed up. I like to say that. I There are nights when he's asleep and he has severe sleep apnea, but he can't wear the machine because of nerve damage in the back of his head, and so we use oxygen on him so that he can sleep, but there's times when I'll just wake up and put my hand on him and just pray over him while we're sleeping, because those are the times when God and I talk the most. A lot of times he'll talk to me through dreams. And so I feel like that's my chance to just love all over him, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I'm about to
Yes.
cry here listening to you. This is so moving and so touching, and
Thank you.
I'm in awe, actually, just actually in awe.
Thank you. But
But in those times of despair, in those times of where you almost feel like you can't take any more,
mhm,
um, I know you turn to God at that point, but do
mhm.
you ever find yourself questioning why, or why us?
I mean, I'm only human, and um especially with him, there's times when I don't understand. And I'll tell God that too. I'll tell him, I just don't understand, God. He's had this and he's had that and he's had this. And I pray for his faith because he doesn't have it right now. He doesn't have it at all. And I can totally understand why. But he'll rally God and he'll say, why? He hates me. Why? And And I'll tell him, "He doesn't hate you. He loves you. And it's because of the sin of the world that we have problems like we have now." I said, "But we can't give up. We've seen too many things that affected our faith throughout the years to not know that there's an all-loving, almighty God still walking beside us, even though times are challenging at this moment."
Amen.
Yeah,
I applaud you again for that, because
thank you.
that's got to almost break your heart to hear
It
him
does.
cry out like that,
Yeah,
and know that he's struggling with this, and that you are there to help him through that.
yes.
I'm saying you're in my prayers tonight. That's a
Thank you.
blessing for you, that you have the strength to overcome that, not only with your son, but also now with your husband.
Yes.
And if that wasn't enough, and if those things weren't enough, we fast forward to 2025, and then you have some health issues, and
Mhm.
that had to shake you to your core yet again. And
It did.
Melissa, I sound like a broken record, but How does this just keep going for you? Tell us about what happened in 2025.
Um, I had started to get to the point where any food I ate upset my stomach, and not to the point of just like you need an acid. It was like bend you over double. The pain coming through my stomach was just incredible. And with my husband, I'm one of these people that unless it's fallen off my body, I'm not going to have it looked at. But I had gotten to the point where I couldn't eat anything. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I want you to have your gallbladder tested. But he said, our location doesn't have the machine that we need to do it. And he sent me to a local hospital. I thought it was a hospital, but it turns out that they really don't care for inpatient people.
It's more like an
But
outpatient facility.
exactly. So they took me in through the emergency room, and they put me on fentanyl. I mean, I was in so much pain at that point. And so they said, okay, let's do the tests. They did the test. They came back and they said, your gallbladder is completely gone. It's not working at all. But they said we have to take it out because it was pumping poison
It was
into
going
my
to pump
system.
poison into you. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so they said we have to take it out. Well, I said, let's go back to my doctor that sent me over here. He'll do the surgery. Oh no, he told us that you should stay here. Well, we didn't know any different. The doctor had sent us over there, so we were like, okay, fine. He said we can get you done tomorrow. And so they had me in there. They called in a specialty team because they don't have a normal one that works in that hospital. Called in a specialty team to do the surgery. I have had an appendectomy, hysterectomy. I mean, I've had different surgeries, never had a problem whatsoever. We still don't know what happened. Something, all I can say is horrible happened. They won't give us the records from that, and we've hired an attorney because it was so horrible. The attorney asked for the records, they wouldn't give it to him. Uh, I woke up screaming, and I was screaming, "I'm gonna die,"
And
over and
and
over.
and and I asked you this off camera, but I'm going to ask it to you on camera. It
Mhm.
wasn't a scream necessarily from pain. It was a scream of fear.
It was fear. I was shaking. I was crying. I had 2
You thought you were
nurses.
going to die.
I did. I had 2 nurses and a doctor standing over me going, you're okay," and I said, "I'm going to die," and I said it more than once. And, they said, "Go get her husband," and he was in the waiting room. Brought him in. He I remember just latching onto his arm going, "I'm going to die," and he says, "No, you're fine." I said, "No, something happened. I'm going to die." And it took him quite a while to just get me calmed down enough, um, for them to transition me back into my room. But it was horrible.
At the depths of that, not only, I'm sure, were you fearful for your life, but you also had to have it going through your head, who's going to help take care of my husband at this
Exactly.
point? You've been the caretaker for so long, and
Mhm.
now you need help.
Yes.
That had to be playing in your head as well.
Yes.
And from a faith perspective, talk about shaking your faith to the core.
Mhm. It was very
I I
humbling.
I I can't imagine the depths that you went to in crying out to the Lord.
Yes.
I just can't imagine. So
It
tell
was
us a little bit about
nonstop.
the journey there.
So, at the surgery center that we were at, they sent me back to the room. God had been working all through this, which I didn't know until a lot later. But about a year before that time, I had determined I was going to lose weight. And I had started on a healthy trend, healthy eating. I have my husband on it. One of our children, my youngest, still lives with us. So we were all three on the same diet. I was walking 10,000 steps a day on my treadmill. I was determined I was going to get healthy. I lost 50 pounds. Right before this surgery, I had just lost the 50 pounds. God had set me up for what was happening because they had told me further down the line that if it weren't for the fact that I was on this healthy trend and had lost the weight, I would be dead. So God had already started it from that point.
He'd already
I
moved in the
fully
right
believe that. Yeah, it was his miracle being put into effect for me. I truly believe that. But I'm laying in the bed and they started an arterial blood draw. I don't know if you've ever had that, but it's the main artery in your wrist. They have to take blood from that.
I'm needle phobic, so just saying it kills me.
It was excruciating. I had my
I can't even
husband on
imagine.
one side grabbing his hand to where I almost tore it off just so that they could get blood.
Lord. I had to
But
get 8 shots in my eye, and that
oh,
that killed me, so I I
oh,
I can empathize completely with you on that. Oh,
yes. So they took the arterial blood. The arterial blood said I was in dire straits. The nurse had said, "You're fine. We're going to keep you here." So I wasn't, at this point, I was in pain from the surgery. So I was like, I don't want to move. And at one point, the doctor called, talked to my husband, and said, if you don't move her to another hospital, we're going to lose her. And so that was the first point where we realized, yes, something major actually did happen during the surgery. I knew I was still in a lot of pain, but figured it was from the surgery. But they said no. So in the middle of the night, it was 10 o'clock in the evening. They called an ambulance, had me transported to another hospital in the Woodlands. When I got there, they said, it looks like you're about to have a heart attack. And the levels were way off. And so they weighed me when I went in there the day of the surgery to 24 hours later when I was moved to this other hospital. I had gained 20 pounds. And they couldn't
that
figure
was
out
just from
why.
fluid, right? That was
That was
just
all
from the
fluid.
fluid buildup in your
Mm-hmm.
body
Yeah.
from this malady, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was in that hospital for a week. Um, and I remember they had to do a spinal draw. It's one of those big long needles into your lungs to withdraw the fluid.
God, bless your
And they could
heart.
only
Oh,
do
Lord.
one lung and then the next day do the other lung. So imagine your phobia after you know what's already gonna happen and
Oh,
you have to do
I
it the
can't.
next day.
I
I,
can't.
I was like, no.
Oh, whoa. No, no, no.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay, so let's get to the good news part of it.
Yes.
It's about a year later now.
Yes,
You're
it
on the
is.
right track. I mean, you
I
still have
am.
some health issues, but you're going in the right direction.
Yes.
And you're back out there being a great realtor again for the people in
Thank
the
you.
Houston area, right?
Huh? I sure
Tell
am.
us now how audience members can reach you if they're interested in using your services.
Okay. You can email me at McCracken, the realtor at gmail.com, and
Okay,
we can
I
get
will
you
put
started
that
from
on the
there.
screen down there for everybody. You can't see it now, but it'll be there. Magic. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm excited about helping people. I use faith even in my real estate because I feel like you can't have a work persona and an after hours persona. You have
No.
to be the same person you are.
You have to, and
Yes.
I applaud that in you as well. I
Thank you.
teach now. I was a banker for many years, and several other things that I've done that I shared with you. But now I'm a teacher, and I agree. You have to have that faith front and foremost in all
Exactly.
that you touch and all that you do, and that's a beautiful thing. And I want to stress to everybody this journey that Melissa has been on, from her son to her husband and now to herself. All through it, her faith has remained strong, and that has to speak out to everyone out there. You may be going through crazy things. You may be going through tough things, but God is there. God is always there for
Amen.
you. And Melissa's story just exemplifies this to the nth degree. And I can't stress that enough. And Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story. If you can believe it, we've already been talking for half an hour.
I
It has
can believe
gone
it.
so quickly because you have such a powerful story to share. I want you to hang on with me. I'm going to tie it up a little bit and we'll end this episode. But I can't stress to everybody enough, this is exactly what this show is about. It's about overcoming challenges through faith. So, if you like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click the like and subscribe button. It's going to be down there. And perhaps you have a story of your own to share: an accident, sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, illnesses. We've talked about it all on this. This is my 28th episode, I believe, and we have had 28 unbelievable stories, and you would like to share your journey of overcoming, please contact me at the email again shown below for consideration about a future podcast interview. I rely on viewers like you to share their stories. In fact, the magical story of how I met Melissa was purely by accident. I almost felt called by God. I was on Facebook and she had made a comment on something. We weren't Facebook friends. We are now, but we weren't Facebook friends at that time. But I made a comment on that, and then I just reached out to her via Messenger on Facebook and said, "Hey, your story sounds unbelievable, and I do this podcast, and I would be honored." And the Lord moved her to respond, and I'm so grateful that she did. And that's how you can become a guest on this show as well and share your story. Thanks again to tradingcardsmarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship to bring these great stories to all of us. Tradingcardsmarketplace.com. Discover, connect, and collect. Awaken the collector in you. I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military, veterans, and first responders who put their lives on the line every day. We can't forget our teachers and our medical professionals who all make the world better, one person at a time. But most of all, please thank God for all the blessings in our world. We need to just make sure that we concentrate on those blessings every single day. Until next time, my friends, you know what I'm going to say. Carpe diem, seize the day. And